Welcome to the Armchair Coaching Podcast. My name is Coach Sheffer. I am your host. I'm the offensive line coach at Brentsville District High School in Nokesville, Virginia. And we have another great guest today. But first, if you're watching us on YouTube and you really like our content, please do us a favor and like the video and subscribe to our channel. We're trying to see our podcast community here grow, trying to grow and make connections with the coaching community. If you're interested in the audio version, the podcast version, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as many other podcast areas. So today we have Coach Kyle Hofmann as our guest. Coach Hofmann from 2000 to 2016 was a high school football coach, 11 of those as a varsity DB coach and special teams coordinator, 1 year as a freshman head coach, 3 as a varsity head coach, including being part of 3 state championships in Arizona. Spent 2018 at Phoenix College as a defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, DBs, and receivers coach. 2019 to the present is currently the director of player personnel and assistant D-line and specialist coach for the University of West Florida with a Division II national championship in 2019. Coach, thank you for coming on to the podcast tonight.
Appreciate you having me, Coach. I was really looking forward to this opportunity, so thank you again.
All right, so I'm just going to jump right in. The first question is one that I ask every guest on the podcast is, I want to know your story. And just from what we've talked about on Twitter and back and forth on email, you seem to have a pretty interesting story and a pretty interesting background. Could you tell us about your coaching journey? Basically, how did you eventually end up to where you are now?
Perfect. Essentially, my journey started at about the age of 19. Previous to that, I had a couple of opportunities in small college football. Out of state, Arizona didn't have many opportunities over there. So I went to JUCO for a little bit and then got injured in that summer. So then went back to the high school, and my high school coach, Jim Ewan, offered me a position coaching defensive backs at the varsity level. So, I was appreciative for that opportunity, and he ended up leaving, and then a gentleman by the name of Steve Bellis came on and kept me on. So it was actually my alma mater, high school, from about the age of 19 till 25. I was a varsity defensive backs coach, and then I spent 1 year, 2000. I want to say 5, I was the freshman head coach, which was another great opportunity to get experience being a head coach at the freshman level. And that was probably one of the funnest seasons I've had as a coach. I was about 24, probably a little bit out of my mind still. I go crazy. But we had a fun season, went 9-0. A lot of those guys, those guys are all in their 30s now, and I still have relationships with all those guys. So that was a fun year. And then from there, I went over to Centennial High School, maybe 5-10 miles down the road in Peoria. The principal, Jim Davis, and then the football coach, Richard Taylor, gave me an opportunity. So I came on there in 2006 as the varsity defensive backs coach, and 3 state championships when I was over there. So that was great. I was with a lot of other really good assistant coaches that at any other program probably could have been and should have been head coaches. So just kind of grew under them. And then in 2012, we just came off actually losing in the state championship. And, it's a really long story, but ultimately the high school that I would have went to in Napa, California growing up when I left in 5th grade, but the high school that I would have attended, that I actually grew up going to high school football games up until about 5th grade. The varsity head coach stepped down. I just happened to see it on the internet one day. Applied for the job, interviewed for it, and got it. So I literally packed a U-Haul and moved from Arizona up to the Northern California, and I was the head coach over there at Vintage High School from 2013 until the spring of 2016. So really 3 falls, 3 seasons, and that was phenomenal. I'm really appreciative of them giving me a chance. I was about 30 years old. Didn't have a ton of, I didn't have any head coaching experience, didn't have really any offensive or defensive coordinator experience. But again, just being under those coaches at Mountain Ridge and Centennial, prepared me for it the best you can without actually being in the shoes of being a head coach. So I was there, and then ended up stepping down, and 2 years later made my way back to Arizona as the defensive coordinator, with some other responsibilities at Phoenix College. And that was my first experience doing football full time. Up until that point, I was a high school math teacher. So, like yourself, I was teaching math from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then you're trying to do football during your lunch hour and before school, after school and stuff. So that first experience of being basically a full-time football coach, I loved it. We went 1-10 that fall. We struggled, but I loved it. And they ended up eliminating, shutting down all those JUCOs out there. And I check out UWF, and I talked to some people that I knew that coached at the college level, and they literally had nothing but the greatest things to say about Coach Shinnick, our head coach at the University of West Florida. And they're like, hey man, if they just let you in the building, just go. And these are people I trusted. So then January of 2019, there was no position for me really. I was essentially a walk-on coach. They have walk-on players, players that come on without a scholarship. I came on as essentially a walk-on coach in January of 2019, and I volunteered, for 18 months. I just finally, earned a restricted earnings position, and now, Coach Nick and I are working on director of player per time. Literally 4 or 5 a.m. to 6, 7, 8 p.m., basically year round. So I know it's where I was supposed to be. It's where I am supposed to be. I can look back and see just how God orchestrated the whole thing throughout my life. And anytime I got off course, I can look back and I can see where he pulled me back, to where I was supposed to be. So that's essentially how I ended up here, the journey I've been on.
That's awesome, Coach. I appreciate that. And I totally understand where you're coming from about, what you said at the end, God having a plan for you. I get it. Because, I had my own plan when I was a senior in high school. I was like, I'm going to go play college football, right? And then I blow my knee out the first day of full pads practice, so senior year. So, I had to go on a completely different trajectory. But, if I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't have met my wife in college. I probably wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah.
So, that I definitely understand what you're talking about there. Now, next question. Most of our listeners are high school coaches. Most of them. Some of them are not. Could you take a moment to describe your daily life as a D2 college coach, and how might it be similar and how might it be different than being a high school coach?
Okay. I can relate because, I spent, let's see, I started teaching in January of 2004. So I taught really, I think 15 years of high school math and coached, I was an assistant coach at the same time. So I know what that's like. I would say, the greatest difference is, you're not spending six hours a day teaching a subject. You're doing additional breakdowns, just things like that. Now, I will say the challenges at the high school level are the same as the challenges, even at the college level. It's just, the same challenges you have with players in terms of, academics and, being late and all that stuff. It just gets reduced a little bit as you move up into the college level. But, you face the same challenges as a college coach that you do as a high school coach. You think, oh, when I get to college, I'm not going to have to deal with, players, being selfish or, guys being late, guys missing practice, this and that. It still happens at the college level. So, that's something that will be similar, be the same. Like I said, the other thing I think a big difference is obviously at the high school level, you don't have recruiting to the same extent that you do at the college level. I can't tell you how many hours a day I spend recruiting. And I don't even like using that word though. For myself personally, I kind of think of it more as relationshiping. And obviously you have to, evaluate and kind of determine, where you spend your time, relationshiping with players, recruiting players. But I think that's a significant difference between being a high school coach and a college coach is the amount of time and we all know as coaches, the better the players you have, the better the coach you are. So, just the recruiting aspect of being a college coach versus being a high school coach is another difference. And it's just, like I said, just the ability to get deeper into the details of the game, evaluate situations deeper, game plan to a further extent than you can at the high school level. And that's the things that I really enjoyed, in 2018 when I went to Phoenix College. And we were really a two-man crew over there as the head coach and myself. We were the only guys that were full-time on that college staff. But I just enjoyed just the thoroughness that we could go into on a daily basis, and I miss teaching. I mean, I miss teaching math. I miss, I miss helping students that weren't athletes. Like just regular everyday kids that came to school to get an education. I miss helping those young men and young women as well. But I just, my heart was really tugging towards football and a little bit of a increased maturity. When you deal with college age students, you get a little more mature, but sometimes you'd be surprised, man. Like it's not too much different, in sense of the people you're working with. But and I think that the time commitment, I know, I was a high school head coach and I know what I put in from a time commitment standpoint, but I've tried to take that and just even increase it more and more. And I try to increase my capacity, like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, like whatever it took, whatever I was able to do yesterday or last week or last month, I'm going to try to increase that and keep putting in more work and more work. So that's just me. I mean, everyone's different.
That's awesome. Now, you are going to be the first director of player personnel that I've had on the podcast. So I'm going to have to ask you about that. Could you describe the jobs that you perform as the director of player personnel?
Yeah. So, it's really kind of like I was saying earlier when I came on to UWF. I ended up volunteering, from January 2019 through the spring. I worked with the outside linebackers because a GA had left to get a full-time job somewhere. And then another GA came in. So I ended up assisting our D-line coach, Alex Crutch, this past fall. And it was a great opportunity for me because I had never really worked with the front like I got the opportunity to this past fall. But I during the COVID, it gave me time to think about, my life and my journey and what direction I could see it going. And, a lot of the Division I's, FBS and FCS's have a lot more support staff, off the field. So it's something that, kind of intrigued me. And I went to our head coach, Coach Shinnick, sometime after the COVID broke, and we were finally allowed back on camp. And Coach actually called me into his office about just talking. So we had started talking, and I kind of presented this scenario to him. And really, no Division II schools have a director of player personnel. There's no budget at a D2 level to really, fund it or support it. But I'm willing to help and kind of bring as much value as I can. And it's something that I have a passion for. In this case, young men. Be successful in every avenue of their life. So a lot of our guys struggle with time management, budgeting, and just all the everyday things that go into being a student athlete at the college level. So for instance, our strength and conditioning staff, our training staff, our academic support system, our coaching staff, it's really just kind of adding on to what our whole staff does. Our staff, works hard at the University of West Florida, but it's really just trying to take also a little bit off everyone's plate. It's helping with housing. It's helping with, I'm basically manage our recruiting boards. When they do open campus, it's really, helping our recruiting coordinator facilitate all of the, official and unofficial visits. It's junior day, it's our camp, it's our walk-on tryout. So, it it's a lot that goes into it. And that's really why at a Division I, it's a full-time job for someone. But it's something that I was interested in doing, and Coach Shinnick, said, hey, I like it, let's go with it. So we're really still kind of implementing it, due to COVID, and then we had a hurricane hit, and all that stuff. So we're still really implementing exactly all the different roles and aspects of it. But it really is, ultimately it's supporting the current players we have, and then it's also, identifying, evaluating, and then recruiting the, potential student athletes for us. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Oh yeah, I bet. Now, another question that I like to ask a lot of coaches is about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a huge deep dive into leadership and culture this past off season. I felt like it was a place that I was lacking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a coach, could you describe your personal leadership style?
Yeah, let me ask you, over the COVID, what type of research and what kind of things were you doing to, what were you reading? What kind of things were you looking into?
So I'm not sure if you've heard of the book. It's Culture Defeats Strategy.
I've heard of it. Yep.
Okay, so I read both of those books. I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts. There's a bunch of different podcasts. I know Joe Daniel does a lot of football stuff
Mm-hmm.
on podcasting, and there's a lot of leadership podcasts. I can't remember the name of the one that I was listening to the other day. Um, I was reading a book about Urban Meyer, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was a lot of like personal leadership style, but then the culture stuff was really sticking with me,
Yeah.
mainly because at the school that I'm at now, the coach that I'm under, I was reading the book and I was noticing things that he does with the program that I didn't notice before
Right. Yeah.
as culture
Good.
building stuff, and now I notice it and I appreciate it much more.
Mm-hmm.
And as a assistant coach, there were also sections in there like, what could you do as an assistant coach to help build culture? And
Mm-hmm.
so that really helped me out because I went through the freshman head coach route. I don't know if I've ever going to do that one again.
Really?
It was good experience, but
Yeah.
I think for right now, being an assistant coach is where I personally like to be, and just researching that kind of stuff, because I went to the interview with the head coach that I work for now, and I said, look, I'm not that guy that you're going to look to on Friday night to give the speech that's going to pump up the football team. I'm not the
Mhm.
rah-rah guy. I'm the guy, the
Right.
relationship coach. I'm the one who's got their arm around the kid on the sideline, talking to him, almost like a father-son relationship. That's my personal leadership style. And all my research validated that.
Right.
It all says if that's what you are, be that person. Don't try to be the rah-rah coach that you see on the sidelines. Um, so that's what I've been doing.
That's good.
Yeah.
One of the books that I got probably about a year and a half ago was Culture Code. Have you heard of Culture Code? Did you get a chance to read it at all or not?
I think so. My wife has this app through the local library where we can get audiobooks, and I
Uh-huh.
think I have it favorited as one that I'm going to listen to
Okay.
soon. I
I'd
haven't
recommend
yet, but I'm
it.
going to.
I loved it. So, I mean, I'm similar to you. And I think when I really got interested in the culture of programs and organizations and those kind of things was when I was transitioning from an assistant coach to a head coach. And really I that job I was talking about in December of 2012 when it got posted, and I ended up flying to Northern California that January. About a month later, like I go to church the next Sunday and they're doing a whole series on leadership, and it was like exactly what I needed to hear. So I just felt like it really wasn't a coincidence. I don't really believe in that. I feel like God was really speaking to me. So that book Culture Code is, I love it. I've read it twice. And the word, it's, the book starts out in the little, it's not a chapter. It's not even, it's right away. It just says culture in Latin essentially means care. And everything you were saying, I'm similar to. I'm real big in relationshiping. I feel like connecting with your guys and being genuine and being yourself and being honest is huge in coaching guys. They know that you care for them, you love them, and then they learn to trust you. And then they know, when you coach them hard, you want what's best for them. You're not doing it to be a prick. You're not doing it to piss them off. You're not doing it, because you're having a bad day. You're doing it because you genuinely want the best out of them every single day. So that's kind of where I come from. I think, like, by nature, I'm extremely competitive. So I think that comes out in, like, my leadership and philosophy and coaching style. I mean, I'm really all about competing. And a lot of times it's competing with yourself at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, am I competing against yesterday's best version of myself? But I mean, I literally hate losing. Like, I'll go to any extreme to win. And I don't even enjoy winning. I just hate losing. That's just kind of kind of my coaching philosophy, leadership styles are all around those things. Like I said, I'm huge on, and like, our culture at UWF is, I've been there for a year and a half, and they were successful way before I got there, obviously. And the main reason is the culture that Coach Shinnick brought. And it's our culture. We all live it every single day. We live it, breathe it. It's those core values that, we have: positive energy, unity, and smart hard work. Like, I'm huge on positivity, positive energy. When I was a head coach, that was one of our core values, was just positive attitude. When I was a head coach, positive attitude, work ethic. I'm huge on work ethic. I probably have a fault to where I don't always practice smart hard work. Sometimes I'm stubborn. Like, I just, like, grind myself into the ground. But that's, a fault of mine. And unity, I'm, real big on unity. So, I mean, coming into the University of West Florida, the core values that were in place, like, and that's why, I knew it was a perfect place for me, because those are the things that I was already living, breathing. I, fully believed in myself already. So, I think that's just kind of part of who I am.
That's awesome. You in your intro,
Mm-hmm.
it mentioned that you have had some defensive coordinator experience.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question, we're talking a little bit of X's and O's.
Okay.
I've spent the last 2 years I was on defense, so I have a little bit of experience on this. What are your preferred offensive and defensive schemes? Let's say tomorrow you're going back to high school,
Mm-hmm.
and you're either an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. Which offense are you choosing, and which defense are you choosing?
That's a great question. I think ultimately, the scheme in high school is hard because, you can't recruit players. So you really, and I learned as a head coach when I went from Centennial High School in Peoria, Arizona, where we would have double-digit Division I players on our team every single year. When I transitioned to being a head coach in Northern California and we didn't have any, what worked schematically back in Arizona at Centennial High School, you know, some of it did, but the majority of it wasn't going to work because we didn't have the body types to play some of those positions. So we had to kind of mold and change things a little bit. So, I mean, I think ultimately your scheme, has to be putting the players you have in the best position to be successful. You know what I mean? I'll give you an example. At the University of West Florida, we are like 100%, I should say 99% a 3-4 defense. Like the guys we recruit particularly, we recruit defensive linemen that fit being a 3-down team. And we play a lot of 4 eyes. So, like, we don't have any defensive linemen under 255 pounds. So, I mean, there could be like, a 4, will we turn them down? I don't know if it's a 4 or 5 star, but, if there's a phenomenal high school player that's, 6'2", 6'3", 225, 235, I mean, unfortunately, we can't, I shouldn't say can't, but we won't, recruit them because they won't fit our scheme. And that's, obviously a luxury at the college level because we can recruit to that. I was, when I was at Phoenix College, and like I said, we were not very good. We were 1-10, and it starts up front, but we weren't very good all around. I tried to be very, I tried to be we were 3 down, 4 down, 5 down. We tried to mix it up a lot and just be very dynamic. And we had some players that could fit it. And, I look back and I would do things a lot differently. Like I put some guys in position really to not succeed almost based on their physical abilities and what I was asking them to do. But it was tough. So now that I've been in the 3 down the last year and a half with Coach Doolin, our defensive coordinator, if you can have those, if you can really find those 3 D linemen that play this 3-4, and you got 8 guys on 2 feet, running around, you got those types of athletes. I think I would actually, I know I would recruit or try to develop my high school players to be able to fit this scheme that we run at University of West Florida. I think in nowadays age offensively, you have to be up tempo and spread for the most part. But I really love watching like Stanford play when they get in with like 32 personnel and just run power all day. You know what I mean? So I love watching that kind of football. It's tough. I like just genuinely like watching teams execute what they do well. But I think, this day and age, the way the game is changing and the way they're protecting, the quarterback so much and receivers, and, it's tough to play DB now because targeting happens so easily. I think to be successful or to be optimally successful, running an up-tempo spread is probably your best bet in today's day and age.
All right. Yeah.
I hate losing, so I probably have to go to it.
I totally get watching Stanford. For me, I'm a big Army fan. Army, Navy, Air Force. I like watching the military schools, the triple option. And, I catch a lot of flack because I'm always repping them on Twitter. And it's like, yeah, I really love watching Army. I don't think that would be the offense that I'm going to run if I became an offensive coordinator. It
Right.
depends on the type of kids we get, right? I'm going to run something that fits our kids. Now, D2 is not playing in the fall, correct?
Yeah, no, sir. I think I've seen a couple teams have played like 1 or 2 games. And I forget who it was I saw on Twitter that played a game against an NAIA school because a few NAIAs are playing too. But yeah, no conference play. There's no national championship at all in the fall or spring for Division II.
That's
I know. It's honestly, I'm Saturdays are depressing for me. Like, I'm not going to even lie about it. Like, I get depressed on Saturdays because I see teams playing and I'm just like, man, we should be playing. But it comes to a money thing. We just can't afford to test. Based on what the NCAA mandated, they basically made it impossible for Division II and Division III to play because just testing, it was too expensive. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And the next question that I have is not necessarily D2, D3, but more like the D1s, FCS, FBS. And at the time that I wrote this, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 were not planning on playing, but they've changed their minds.
Right.
What are your thoughts on how the upper levels have handled the whole COVID situation?
Yeah. I think the SEC, obviously, I think they were kind of the leaders of encouraging everyone to be patient, don't rush to a decision. And they held out as long as possible. And, the ACC pretty much, followed suit. And also the Big 12, kind of followed, I think really those two followed the SEC and were, held out and did, waited as long as possible and kind of had an idea that, testing was going to get cheaper and easier and all those things. So, obviously I think they handled it the best and just being patient, not canceling seasons. You can postpone it, into September, push it back, a little bit here and there. And then, obviously now with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 coming back, 8 games, I think, for the Big Ten and 7 games for the Pac-12, and the Pac's starting a little bit later. Hey, it's crazy. And this is probably, what's the date today? October 6th. So this is probably like 3 weeks ago. My best friend out in Arizona my best friend in California went to Arizona to visit his family. So he actually moved from Phoenix to Napa with me to help me be a head coach. Met his wife up there, has a family going now. He still lives there, but went to Arizona to visit his mom and brother and his family. He was at a resort, like this is middle of September, and he sends me a picture. This is middle of September, like 3 weeks ago. David Shaw was floating on the lazy river in the middle of September, like just chilling. Because they shut that whole Stanford. California is different too. They shut that whole campus down. Like Stanford, was just shut down completely. I'm glad they're all coming back though. And now the MAC obviously is coming back with them, and the Mountain West, and whoever else. Well, the Sun Belt actually really never stopped either, right? The Sun Belt.
Yeah, they stayed too.
Stayed too, yeah. Kind of. I mean, they're not a Power Five, obviously, but Group of Five, they stayed. So, I mean, I'm glad they're all playing. Obviously, you can see they're still, they still get games have been canceled or postponed or pushed back or moved, and you see teams playing without 7, 8, 10 players because of either a positive test or contact tracing, things like that. So, and also, perspective, we look back, obviously they canceled our season because of COVID, and this is just for us, but we would have missed 2 games because of the hurricane that hit us in September, because they shut our campus down from a Thursday to, for almost 2 weeks. So we actually would have had to forfeit or cancel 2 games. And now another hurricane's coming and potentially hitting us. It might stay west, but whatever. But I mean, we look back in just perspective, man, we might have barely had a season anyways. You know what I mean? So obviously it's all kind of hindsight, but and now the FCS is playing in the spring, and there's a national championship they're going to play in the spring, the FCS. That'll be interesting because, I mean, from what I've heard, a lot of people actually aren't super fired up about that because of the fast and quick turnaround it's going to be to the fall of 2021 playing this spring. And you think about all the states, all the schools north of a certain line, they really can't get outside until March or April and practice. So if they don't have an indoor facility, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be tough on them practicing.
Yeah, here in Virginia, pretty much every state around us, Maryland, West Virginia, North Carolina, they're all playing right now.
Right.
And we're the only one that's not.
You're the only high schools not playing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So all of Virginia moved the fall season to mid-February is when we start.
I saw that in North Carolina too. Is that is that the whole state or just certain parts of it?
I'm not exactly sure about North Carolina. I've heard different things from different coaches.
Yeah.
It might be different areas are allowed to play.
Right.
I do have a pretty good friend in South Carolina, and they're all playing, which is good. But at one part of me is like, man, I really wish we were playing right now because we have gorgeous weather in Virginia. Right. It would be perfect football weather. But the other hand, it was at least the state made a decision, and now we have a plan.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a shorter season, and it's that quick turnaround from the spring to the fall season next year. That's going to suck, but at least at the moment we have a plan to play football. Right. I would hate it if the governor said, all right, well, I'm going to give you guys 2 weeks. You can start playing. Well, we've got kids who've been sitting on their butts for 3 months, not doing anything.
Oh yeah. We got guys that are still trying to get back in shape, and it's October, and they've been on campus for 6 weeks minus the hurricane week, but.
And at the moment we're still teaching virtually.
Wow.
And we're not allowed to have anybody in the weight room yet. So all the workouts that we've been, no footballs, no blocking shields, no contact, nothing. Yeah. So we've been in doing the pod system, and I have my pod of linemen who we do our body weight workouts and we do our agilities and that kind of stuff, trying to get back in shape, but without lifting weights. That's going to be fun, trying to get into the season.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, they're also, I mean, it's probably to help some of your guys. There's talk of pushing back that February signing date. Did you guys hear about that?
I haven't heard that yet, but that would
So
be a good idea.
yeah, nothing's in writing yet. Like there's no legislature on it yet, but there's like, they're starting to consider and talk moving that February signing date back, which would help some of the high school kids, in Virginia, at least get to play a couple games or a season to get looked at.
Mhm.
So just
Yeah,
more.
we've had some higher level recruits in our area transfer to other states already. We had one from a team that we played last year. He was a freshman linebacker at a school named James Monroe that we played last year in the playoffs. He's now at IMG. So,
Right.
they're all the kids who wanted to play a fall season, they're gone. So, it's interesting. It's hopefully things normal out next year, but we'll see.
Hopefully, yeah.
Um, the next question, you're a coach, so you're obviously a fan of the game. Uh, Unfortunately, you have more time to watch other teams play
Right.
for reasons that we already talked about. Are there any other college teams that you root for or there's a team that you want to watch whenever you get the chance? And then are there any coaches at the higher level that you look up to as an inspiration?
Yeah. I mean, I think growing up, growing up in Arizona and California, I was always like, a Pac-12 person. Like I always try to support and root for the Pac-12. Um, I don't know if I had a favorite team. Like I said, you know, I really respect like the Stanford program. With all the academic excellence. Not that anyone else doesn't have academic excellence, but just kind of the level of academics that they compete at really, and then also they made and they're still doing pretty well, but just the run they had on the football field at the same time. And I was fortunate to coach a young man from Centennial that went to Stanford and played there. So I mean, I got to, I they really became my favorite team because he was playing there for a while. Um, I try to support and root for, and I'm not on the inside, so I don't know everything, but just people that do it the right way. People that, seem to, and like I said, it's, some to the certain extent on the outside looking in and not being on the inside and all that, but, just coaches that, do it the right way. And, looks like, put their student athletes best interests in mind. And I know college football is a business, so there's always that aspect of it. But that's kind of who I root for, and just kind of people that I feel like inspire me are ones that I feel like, do things the right way and things like that. So
Now, let's get to West Florida. So
okay.
last year you guys won the Division II National Championship. So obviously that was a special season. What are some of your personal favorite memories and stories from that season?
All right, that's a tough one. Well, shoot, we started off 0-1. We went up to Carson Newman last September, and didn't play our best football up there on the road. We started 0-1, and then week 2 we were tied with Shorter University, and not that we don't respect them at all. I mean, we respect them highly, but they hadn't won a conference game yet. And we were tied with them at halftime, and then we came out and played a much better half, the second half. Um, I mean, it's a lot of amazing memories. One that really stands out to me is we were playing at Valdosta. So, they were the 2018 national champs. And, at that point they'd won, I don't know, a lot of games in a row, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, 20 something, 30 maybe. I forget the exact number. And they were number 1 in the nation, and we were we were top 5. I want to say probably number 4. And this was week 8. And we were 6-1, I guess, and they were 7-0, something like that. And I believe that was what it was. And we went out and played the absolute worst half of football we ever could have played in the first half. I think we had like 1 first down in the whole half. We ran not like 15 plays. Like, you know what I mean? Like, defense on the field the whole time. We couldn't get ourselves off the field. They had the ball 5 times. They had 2 field goals, 2 touchdowns, and we forced them to punt 1 time. So it was 20-0 at half. It felt like it was 50-0 because they had over 400 yards of offense in the first half. And like I said, we had 1 first down. I mean, it was completely lopsided. And we get in the locker room at half, and nobody was complaining. Nobody was pointing fingers at anybody. Nobody was feeling sorry for themselves. Everybody was just solution-minded. You know what I'm saying? And really, our unity, that core value of unity came out. Positive energy came out. Everyone was positive. Everyone was upbeat. And it's like, hey, man, like, let's go 1 play at a time, 1 possession at a time. We came out and scored, got a takeaway, scored again, and it was 20-14, before you knew it. And then we ended up getting the ball back to the offense in our own territory with like 3 minutes left, down less than a score. I want to say down 6. And we ended up getting a holding call on first down, and then 1st and 20. We never converted. We ended up punting, and then we didn't get the ball back. So, we lost. But, just really the confidence we got knowing we played as bad as we could play, and we had a chance to win the game at the end against the reigning national champs. That's something, I hate losing. And I remember that ride home, it was not fun, but it did, I hate moral victories, but just the attitude of our players and our staff coming out of that game, I knew something great was going to come. We finished the season strong. And then just went on a run, like really a magical run in those playoffs. Went up to North Carolina and beat Wingate in like just a mud bowl, rain, cold game. Then we had to go back to Valdosta, so it's about a month later, and went up there and beat them. This time it was kind of reversed. We went out and got a big lead on them. They chipped back and got the lead, and we got the ball back with like 2 minutes left. We converted 2 or 3 fourth downs on that drive to win the game. We scored with like 6 seconds left to win the game. And so that was amazing. And then we had to go on the road again, back to North Carolina, and we had to play at Lenore-Ryan, who is a really, really good Division II football team, and playing in they got a really hostile stadium there in the Bricks. Went in there and beat them, and then we flew up to Michigan and played Ferris State, who was in the national championship against Valdosta in 2018, and it was snowing. I mean, it was like in the 20s. Little snow flurries, and everyone said like the Florida kids can't play in the cold weather, and went up there and proved them wrong. And I think we had like 6 takeaways in the game. It was fun. And then went to Texas and beat Minnesota State. So literally just went on the road 5 weeks in a row. And for me personally, I'll just tell you, like for me personally, it was like, all right, it's the playoffs. Like I'm gonna sell out for a week and just see what happens. Like I'm gonna just like literally live football from 4 a.m. till 10 p.m. and then just try to get 6 hours of sleep and do it again. And it's like, all right, we won. All right, let's just go all out for one more day, one more day at a time, 1 week, and literally just sell out every single day. Just sell out and try to get your team as ready as you possibly can. And then, so it was amazing. I forget exactly what it was, but those 5 games on the road, 4 of them were number 1 seeds. So we beat 4 number 1s. I forget what those 4 teams combined record was, or sorry, I guess 5 teams. Sorry, they're 5 teams combined record, but they only had 1 loss in the playoffs. So, it was magical. It was fun. And there's so many times literally we were 1 play away from losing a game, or we were even like a play away from not making the playoffs in week 9. So, I'd be up in the press box. I'm up in the box. There's 3 of us on defense up in the box and 3 on offense. And literally, I'm like, God is with us. Like we are supposed to win this game because that's God's plan. It was crazy. So it was fun to win. It was just it really was a magical season, and a lot of things have to go right to win any type of championship, a conference championship, in high school, a state championship. Like I said, we were able to win 3 of them at Centennial, and so many things have to go right over the course of a season to win win any type of championship. So, yeah, it was fun. Trying to do it again, unfortunately we're on pause until 2021, but making sure right now, in 2020 that we're preparing to do it again in 2021.
All right, Coach. I have one last question for you tonight, and it's a pretty simple. It's a short one, but it's a pretty simple one. Why West Florida? What makes it special, and what makes it the right fit for you?
I feel like I hit on some of those things earlier. You know what I mean? It's the core values, the positive energy, the unity, the smart hard work. The program goals that we have 3 program goals. And, when I was a head coach at the high school level for those 3 years, it syncs up really well with the goals that I had for our high school players. Number one, it's ensuring, equipping, helping every man to be the best husband, father, employer, employee they can be. And that was the same thing, that when I was a high school head coach, it was like, all right, like our number one goal is preparing these guys to be successful husbands, fathers, and like members of the community someday. They're going to, go off to college or go to a trade school, whatever, find out what they want to do, come back and be, productive members of society and contribute to the community. Our number 2 goal is to make sure everyone graduates with a degree in 4 to 4.5 years. So it was similar, to me at the high school level, was make sure everyone graduates and, has a GPA that can get them wherever they want to go. And then our 3rd goal is just to play great football. So, our core values, our program goals, our program theme is a Greek word, arete. So since we're the UWF, from the Greek times, a Spartan that got on a boat. So it's basically a Spartan, but on the sea. So that word arete is basically translated to the word excellence. It also means living up to one's fullest potential. So I happened to come here in January 2019, and to be honest, to my own fault, I didn't do a ton of research on some of those things that, that were in the University of West Florida program. But so I get there and I start learning about the program, and hey, this word arete, I literally go into my phone and I had screenshotted that word arete like a year before. And it was something that I had like, as you were talking about culture, it was something that I had implemented, as part of a culture in our program, and just something that I had our guys explore. So I just feel like the coaching staff, we are a public institution, but, our head coach is a really convicted Christian, same values with myself. So it just felt like where I was supposed to be, even though I wasn't making any money. And obviously, like, that was tough. I'm not going to lie about that. Like, not making money's tough. Just, I had money saved up, but just mentally, like, like working and really not seeing anything immediate from it in terms of money and things like that, and livelihood. And every time you go buy groceries, it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm not putting money back into this account. It just keeps going down. But like I said, I look back and just the experience that I gained personally and being a part of all the experiences, and just like I said, who I am and how I feel like I fit in with who they are, and who we are, I should say. And like I said, our culture is the main reason that we are so successful. Obviously, we're in Florida, so we get good athletes. We have a really great coaching staff, but it's that culture, and it's not for everyone. We have a no cussing PG mentality. So even at the college level, the coaches will not, we do not cuss at the players. The players can't cuss at us, obviously, or with themselves. Anything football related, weight room, locker room, meeting rooms, practice field, any music that's playing, like, it's got to be 100% clean. We say just keep it arete. Anytime we're on the road, in a hotel, airplane, it's a no cussing policy. And again, it just breeds those core values of positive energy, unity, and things like that. So, for me personally, that's why I just knew it. Everyone that I had some sort of, knew Coach Shinnick or knew of him or knew who he was about, and they knew me, they said like, Hoff, man, like you need to go. Like, I don't care if you're turning down this job there, that job, whatever money, like you can't put a price tag on that, being there and those kind of things. So that's really, for me, why I love the school so much, and, why I love being a part of the program and all that kind of thing.
Well, Coach Hoff, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast tonight. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me. I mean, it's awesome just talking with you and getting to hear about, some of the things you got going on over there too.
Awesome. This has been Coach Sheffer, and we are signing out.